It's a little update to Zark that we built a little while ago. I'll have the build actually in the link in the description if you want to actually watch the full build. We had some problems with the new Zark build. The lights on the front weren't working correctly because we had the wrong connector on the motherboard. The motherboard itself had a 12 volt connector, but the fans are using like a 5 volt connector. So we had to figure out a way to get that to work. The cheapest method we did was using a small conversion cable that allows it to now work with 5 volts. I'm going to take apart the side and show you the little change in the cable. In the system here, and I noticed when I went to go to plug in the connector for the fan, I noticed that it only has 3 plugs, which makes it a 5 volt connector. So what I did was I purchased this little, I guess, controller, you want to call it, for the 5 volt to bring it down to 5 volts from a SATA connection to 5 volts. Instead of connecting it to the motherboard, I am connecting it here in the case, which is really hard to do one-handed. Now I know why everybody, whenever they try to do things one-handed, it's impossible. Alright, I'll do that in a second. Now, the negative part about this is that this is a cheap solution, but the problem with the cheap solution is that if you want to change your colors, you're now going to have to go in here and push a button to change between it and cycle through the colors and allow different colors to happen for the fans. This is not the best solution, but it is a solution. I'm working on the reason why I'm using this solution is because it's less expensive than paying $50 for a controller that works off of software. I'm going to put both links so you guys can see what I'm talking about. If you want to purchase this original build, you're going to need something to run those LED lights on the fans. Personally speaking, I think this is a big waste of money. Even spending this $8 or $6 adapter is ridiculously overpriced for just getting fans to work and be colorized. The fans still work, by the way, without this. They just don't work with the lights. So this is really just straight up for the lights. I'm also going to show you some other improvements that we did to Zark. So I'm just going to open up the other side panel and we'll continue from there. We had a SATA hard drive actually connected onto the back here and connected down to the motherboard. Originally we had the customer's data on that, which was just some programming. It's our programming, but it had the customer's programming on there, which we were trying to do a lot of compiles on. And we ended up taking out that SATA drive because it is just way too slow. It's a SATA SSD still, but it was just way too slow for building. This new unit is much faster, much newer. So we just basically got rid of that and we changed it to an NVMe, which I'm going to show you on the other side, the NVMe, which actually we put into another socket. This motherboard back here did not support having 2 NVMe drives. It only has 1 socket. So we had to do something a little more creative. On the other side panel, I had to remove the glass side panel so we can get a little better look here. I put on some extra lighting just so that we can see a little bit more in here, and you'll see that down here there is, in the graphic card slot, another NVMe drive. We had to use a special conversion card to basically convert a little circuit board to basically hold the NVMe, and then it goes into a by 16 slot. This is a little faster. We aren't using a graphic card in here, so that fits perfectly for this motherboard. But if your motherboard has multiple graphic card slots, you can put in almost any slot. That is a graphic card slot for this specific one. This one's a little faster. If you have to go down to like a by 1 slot or by 4 slot, you will lose a little bit of your NVMe speed, but it would still be just about as fast. So instead of using SATA, anything is still better than SATA speed. SATA speed is capped at certain speeds. I'm going to list those speeds there so that you can see exactly what those speeds differences are. That's the physical changes, and I'll just show you the lights. I also forgot to mention there was one more little thing which bothered me a lot about this case, is this filter. This filter was down here on the side panel, attached to the side panel. Has little magnets, but what happened was that it wasn't actually sitting flush with the panel. And when it wasn't sitting flush with the panel, it was causing a lot of noise to happen. When the fans ramped up, it would vibrate against the case and cause a lot of really loud noise. I don't understand why this freaking filters here anyway, because most people usually mount the power supply downwards so that it uses the filter from the bottom of the case. I don't know anybody that would mount a power supply towards the back or side of the panel, to the back side panel, which doesn't make any sense. Maybe there's a power supply that does that. I don't know. But as I see it fit, this really is actually an exhaust. So at the current time, I'm using it as an exhaust. So it doesn't make any sense to use it here. So I just took it out so it stops making noise. It's a little bit of a annoying thing. I mean, I appreciate the fact that they gave you a little filter screen, but this filter screen was driving me nuts because I had to keep checking all the fans, thinking that the fan was actually making noise, and it wasn't the fan. It ended up to be this stupid filter just rattling against the side of the case whenever the processor fan sped up a little bit, or the power supply fan sped up a little bit and caused a little bit of vibration, moved this entire thing around. It made a big racket. So I'm kind of glad that I figured this out, and I just removed that. And yeah, this case besides that is a really great case. There's a lot of airflow. There's a lot of filters in the front here, which are really nice. There's also filters on the top, which I'm not using directly. I mean, technically speaking, the filters on the top probably don't need to be there because I'm using it as exhaust. But if you're taking air in, I guess you could use that filter. But it looks nice, and I'm gonna turn the lights on so you guys can see the lights running and all the fans running. This is a really large case. This case would be great for water cooling, especially custom water cooling. If you guys do custom water cooling loops, this is a lot of room for that. Even if you're doing an all-in-one loop, you can still do it. You can still put like a really big rad at the top on the inside, which I'm on the wrong side, of course. Yeah, you can't see through that side. Maybe you can. Ah, yeah, you can. Okay, so at the top you could put a really big rad up there, as well as just an all-in-one cooler if you really don't want to do custom cooling. I don't recommend custom water cooling anyway, unless you know what you're doing. The backup drive that's sitting on there. Let's run the case. The only weird thing about this case is the buttons are on the side, but also the USB is on the side as well as the USB-C. This is a little odd for me for normal reasons because usually it's on the top of the case, but this is on the side. It's not bad. It's just a little different. And that's the system with the lights on for the fans. They're really nice RGB. It's good enough. It's not really that well blended, but it's good enough for what it is. They were free. They did come with the case. There is also a rear fan back there. The RAM also, I decided to get some RGB on the RAM, but honestly I just wanted it for the Pro Series. And everything else well lit up. And that's Zark for you. This case was a little expensive. Honestly, I think the Leon Lee one was a little bit better. The one that we built a little while back for Leon Lee, that was a little bit nicer on the inside. This was about the same price as that. That's the reason why I'm kind of comparing. The Leon Lee was a little smaller. This case is a little bigger. But it does have a very nice, simple look. Nothing too complicated, lots of airflow, which the Leon Lee does have a decent airflow as well, but didn't come with a lot of the fans. This came with most of the fans. This came with, well, actually, it came with all the fans except for the CPU cooler, but all the case fans are included. So you get 3 here and 1 in the back, so 4 total. Anyways, that's the update for right now from Zark. We will post a link for the build, so if you want to build one of these, you can build it based off of our build, or you can change things up a little bit. See you in the next one.